Washington, 1923. The man in the vest is not posing after the test. He is part of the test. A pistol is fired at close range while photographers record whether the new bulletproof vest can stop the shot. A second angle makes the demonstration even stranger. The shooter, the vest, and the witnesses are all arranged for one purpose: to make danger visible enough that the public would believe the invention worked. Paris, 1895. This locomotive did not crash on a film set. It overran the buffers at Montparnasse station, broke through the wall, and hung above the street. The photo looks impossible because the train stopped only after leaving the station. Centerville, 1862. These cannons were not cannons at all. Confederate forces shaped and painted logs so Union observers would think the position was still heavily defended. From a distance, the fake guns did their job. Paris, 1838. The boulevard was busy, but the camera erased almost everyone. The exposure was so long that moving traffic disappeared, while one man and a bootblack stayed still long enough to become some of the first people ever photographed. New York, 1908. Before fingerprints became standard, police tried to identify people by measuring the body. The Bertillon system recorded heads, ears, arms, and scars, turning a person into a file of numbers. The one-wheel motorcycle looks like a joke drawn by a cartoonist, but inventors really built machines like this. The idea was simple: put the rider inside or beside one giant wheel. The problem was control, balance, and stopping safely. These giant horns were not musical instruments. Before radar became reliable, armies used acoustic locators to listen for aircraft engines. The machines look absurd now, but they were part of a serious race to hear danger before it arrived. Britain, 1941. The unsettling detail is how ordinary the setting feels. A mother and baby are not on a battlefield. They are inside wartime civilian life, where gas masks became part of the home. London, 1940. Nurses tested special gas protection for infants because a normal mask could not fit a baby. The photo looks like a strange machine demonstration, but the reason was brutally practical. Children had to be protected during air raids. Another hospital frame shows the same fear in a crowded room. These were not props, they were drills, teaching staff how to protect the smallest patients if poison gas followed the bombs. An iron lung looks like a science fiction chamber, but for many polio patients, it was the machine that kept them breathing. It changed air pressure around the body when the muscles that controlled breathing no longer worked. This diving suit looks more like armor than clothing. Early deep sea work needed weight, sealed joints, and a way to survive pressure. The strange shape was not decoration, it was engineering against the ocean. The Carmagnole suit pushed the armor idea even further. It had many small joints, so a diver could move underwater, at least in theory. In practice, suits like this could be heavy, awkward, and difficult to trust. This machine let shoppers look through their shoes with X-rays. For a time, it felt modern and scientific. Later, the hidden cost became obvious. Casual radiation exposure had been turned into a sales tool. The anti-gas baby carriage is a perfect example of fear becoming design. It looks exaggerated because the threat was exaggerated into daily life. Even a pram could become emergency equipment. This couple appears to have a spirit in the car. The image belongs to the world of spirit photography, where double exposures and darkroom tricks were often presented as proof that the dead could return on film. In another spirit photograph, the strange writing around the sitter turns the portrait into a message. To believers, it suggested contact. To skeptics, it showed how easily photography could be made to perform a miracle. William Hope became one of the best-known names in spirit photography. His pictures mattered because people trusted cameras. If a camera could lie, then the modern image was not as neutral as it seemed. Ella Harper was advertised as the camel girl because a rare condition bent her knees backward. The cabinet card feels uncomfortable today because it shows how difference was packaged and sold as entertainment. Boston, 1908. Houdini did not need a theatre to create a stage. A bridge, a river, and a crowd were enough. The spectacle was public because the proof had to be public too. This baby carriage looks like a product from an alternate timeline. The idea was protection from sun and weather, but the design feels strange because it solves a normal problem with a very elaborate machine. This tank was built to be seen, not to fight. Dummy vehicles helped armies mislead aerial observers and enemy scouts. From far away, the shape mattered more than the engine, armor, or gun. France, 1940. The children in this photograph are learning a wartime routine that should never have belonged to childhood. The masks make the scene look unreal, but the drill was preparation for a real possibility. In 1939, gas mask demonstrations moved into the public eye. Adults, children, and infants all needed different equipment. The photograph is strange because it shows an entire family turned into a civil defense problem. This First World War school scene shows children entering shelter at the teacher's call. The image looks distant, but the idea is painfully modern, education continuing while war rearranges the day. The title says Spring 1939, but the mood is not light. Images like this used satire to make fear visible before the Second World War fully arrived. The joke only works because everyone understood the threat. Here Houdini is caught mid-escape, not in the clean final pose. That is what makes the photograph useful. It shows the work of getting free, the awkward body position, and the public hunger for proof. Argus belonged to the age before electronic detection dominated the battlefield. Large listening devices tried to turn sound into warning. The strange silhouette reminds us that radar did not appear fully formed overnight. A huge crowd can make an old photograph feel like a puzzle. In 1918, public gatherings, parades, fundraising, and wartime messaging often overlapped. The image is less about one person than about mass attention. The Hammond flying machine comes from a period when aircraft design had not settled into a familiar shape. Inventors tested frames, wings, engines, and controls that now look fragile because the rules were still being discovered. This flying machine looks like a cage because early aviation was full of competing ideas. Some designs failed, some taught useful lessons, and some survived only as photographs of how uncertain flight once was. In this machine, the pilot looks almost exposed to everything. Early aviation did not yet have the clean shell viewers expect. The body, engine, and wings were all visible because the aircraft was still an experiment. Texas City, 1913. Military aircraft still looked delicate, almost temporary. The photograph is important because it shows a new kind of warfare before it became visually familiar. Aircraft as equipment, not novelty. The Farman machine looks like scaffolding in the air. That is partly why early aviation photographs feel unreal. The pilot was not inside a sleek aircraft. He was sitting in a frame that had only recently learned to fly. This later polio photograph shows why medical machines can look frightening even when they are saving lives. The equipment dominates the room, but the real story is the body depending on technology for a basic human function. These breaker boys worked around coal, dust, and machinery. The photo looks crowded and grim because it was. Lewis Hine and others used images like this to make child labor impossible to ignore. Another Coalbreaker image shows the scale of the system. The boys are small compared with the structure around them. That visual imbalance is the point. Children were placed inside industrial work built for adults. Pennsylvania, 1913. Boys picked slate from coal in conditions that were dirty, repetitive, and dangerous. The image is not fake. It is a record of work that reformers wanted the public to see clearly. This quieter Houdini image shows the setup before the escape. The straps and assistance matter because the audience needed to believe the restraint was real. Without that belief, the escape meant nothing. Washington, 1922. Houdini's upside-down escape turned a city street into a theater. The figure is small, but the crowd below tells you why the image survived. The performance was designed to be witnessed. The operator inside this sound locator looks swallowed by the machine. Before radar, detection could mean listening through enormous acoustic equipment, trying to turn faint engine noise into usable warning. Frankfurt Arsenal, 1941. This instrument helped with fire control, the mathematics of aiming weapons accurately. It looks strange because so much calculation had to be done with physical devices before digital systems took over. The Scots Mission Hospital photograph brings the iron lung back into a real room. Doctors, nurses, and the patient are all arranged around a machine that did one urgent job: keep breathing going. 8-year-old Jack is shown driving a horse rake, a job the caption itself described as dangerous on rough ground. The photograph looks calm until you notice the size of the child beside the work. Bathing machines look bizarre today, but they solved a social problem. They let people change clothes and enter the water with privacy at a time when beach behavior was controlled by strict rules. Scheveningen, 1910. Rows of bathing machines show that leisure had infrastructure. A beach was not only sand and water, it was also etiquette, modesty, and a system for managing how people appeared in public. By 1913, these seaside machines were still familiar enough to be photographed as ordinary life. What makes the image useful is the gap between their normality then and their strangeness now. Bognor, around 1890. The beach scene looks stiff because seaside culture was not yet the relaxed image we know now. Clothing, machines, and public manners shaped how people met the water. The steamship Atlantic wreck was a real disaster, but this printed image compresses several scenes into one visual record. Before news video, illustrations like this helped readers imagine rescue, loss, and aftermath. A soldier and his dog in protective masks can look staged, but the fear was real. Wartime gas threats reached beyond human soldiers. Even service animals were pulled into the danger. Brooklyn, 1924. The so-called bob-haired bandit appears after a police lineup. The phrase sounds like a headline because it was one. Crime photography and newspaper storytelling were already feeding each other. Bessie Blitch was 15 when Lewis Hine photographed her at a sewing machine. The image does not need drama added. Her age, the machine, and the workplace are the evidence. A construction worker adjusts a chain high on a skyscraper support. The photo looks fake because the body seems too exposed, but high steel work often meant doing precise tasks with the city far below. This worker is almost swallowed by the frame, which is exactly why the photo works. The human figure is small, the structure is large, and the danger comes from the empty space around him. New York, 1906. The steel frame of a skyscraper looks almost like a cage in the sky. The modern city was built by workers moving through that frame before safety looked anything like it does now. Return to Houdini and the logic becomes clear. The photograph looks impossible because it was meant to. The real trick was not only escaping the jacket, it was making thousands of people stop, look up, and remember. Gladys Roy stood blindfolded on an airplane wing when aviation itself still felt new. The photo was not just about courage, it was about turning early flight into a spectacle that newspapers could sell. Annie Edson Taylor survived Niagara Falls in a barrel in 1901. The portrait beside the barrel is calm, almost formal. That contrast is what makes it strange. The object beside her had just carried her through violence. Emmeline Pankhurst's arrest outside Buckingham Palace shows that political history is not only speeches and laws, it is also bodies being blocked, carried and photographed in the streets.